Okay, to begin with, what we need to do is we need to break down some basic techniques and scales that we're going to be using throughout this DVD. So the first thing I want to do is I want to focus a little bit on breaking down your right hand and your left hand and their functions. So the first thing we're going to do is, of course, talk about the right hand. There are two main things that you need to learn how to do with your right hand. You need to be able to pick, and you need to be able to palm mute. Okay? Now, picking, we can divide into two sections as well. When we pick, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about down picking and alternate picking. So what I want you to do is go ahead and grab your guitar pick and make sure that when you're holding your guitar pick, you're trying to hold the pick closer to the front of the guitar pick. The further back you hold it, the two problems with this would be, number one, the pick tends to flip out of your fingers a lot, and number two, there's too much pick in the front of the hand, so when you're picking notes and things like that, it tends to get stuck on the strings, especially when you're doing alternate picking. And so what we want to do is we want to hold it a little bit closer to the front. Of course, make sure that the pointy end is facing the strings. Okay? And let's just talk about palm muting, and then we're going to talk about some picking exercises. Now, palm muting is done with the karate chop part of your hand. Okay? What you do is you take that and you set it where the strings come over the bridge. Okay? So instead of getting this sound, you get this sound. We're going to use that for our exercises. That way it's not so noisy, it's a little bit tighter, it's a little bit easier to tell what it is that we're doing. Now, with your right hand, what you want to learn to do is develop a nice, strong, fluid down picking and up picking sequence. You know, when we think about songs, songs are either based off of strumming or they're more riff based. Okay, when you play things. And so the goal is making sure that when you're picking, you're either able to strum a nice full strum, which we're not doing in this video, of course. The other one is picking, having a real refined, tight pick. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to make an exercise called the 3-minute exercise. And what you're going to do is utilize your metronome, and you're going to try and do this exercise for 3 straight minutes without stopping. What you and I need to do is find a speed that's comfortable to do a down picking exercise by palm muting over and over and over. Okay? And the goal here is to develop these muscles, number one, and number two, to learn to relax when we play. Okay? So as we're pushing, being able to do that, but be able to do it for an extended length of time. Not just be able to do it really fast for 10 seconds or something like that, but really developing the strength over time. So that way you're more comfortable playing, you know, not one song, but 5 songs or 20 songs or 50 songs, things like that. So what you're going to do, of course, is palm mute. We're going to find a comfortable speed to palm mute sequentially at. Now, what I would usually say is use your metronome and pick twice. You know, if you set your metronome at 20, set it up so, or excuse me, 120, set it up so every time you're picking 2 times per click, or 140 or 160, whatever it might be. Give it a try, set it up and try and do 2 per click. And if you get into it and you're only doing about 20, 30 seconds and you have to stop because it's too fast, then slow it down, okay? The main thing with all of these things that we talk about, when you solo, when you're playing, I guess I could say riffs or you know, chords or anything like that, the goal is to have the perception of your playing sound professional. And I'm still trying to figure out what that word actually means, but when you're playing, it sounds right. It sounds real. People listen to you and they go, yeah, that's what it should sound like. And so the goal is when you're practicing things, whether it's chords, scales, licks, technique, anything like that, don't pretend like you're doing something, do it. So instead of, you know, thinking that by obligation, because you've been playing for a certain amount of time, you should be able to do something, don't think of it that way. Just realize what it is that you can do and then figure out how to make that better. And so, like, this is a perfect example, setting your metronome. You're always going to want to be compelled to set your metronome faster than you're probably capable of doing. And that's an urge you really need to learn to fight. You want to be able to do this picking pattern for 3 straight minutes without stopping. Now, when you get to the end, you might be a little sore, your muscles might be a little tight, and then you stretch them out, and that's just great. But you should be able to do it for 3 minutes. If you can only do it for 30 seconds or 40 seconds or something, you have to deal with the fact that at this point, that's just a little bit too fast, and you need to slow it down a little bit. What I do is I keep track of these. You know, I'll write down my numbers and keep track of the speeds that I can do these things at. And that way I can keep improving. I can keep getting faster. I can keep getting stronger. So that's the first one, is learning how to alternate pick, or excuse me, down pick.